I wanted to shiny hunt for the literal god of Pokemon, Arceus. But before I even stepped through the gates of heaven, I needed to understand what exactly I was dealing with here, because this wasn't going to be just a normal shiny hunt. If anything, this was going to be my biggest hunt ever. Now, one of my favorite topics of discussion is who was the first Pokemon? When I was a kid, it was always believed that Bulbasaur was the very first Pokemon because it shows up as number 1 in the National Pokedex. There were also arguments around Mew being the first Pokemon since its DNA contains the genetic code of all Pokemon. Now, don't even get me started on Rhydon, but technically that is correct if we're answering the question from a development standpoint. But when Arceus came around, the question of who was the first Pokemon became more complex. Arceus is number 493 in the National Pokedex and is known as the Alpha Pokemon, Alpha meaning the first letter of the Greek alphabet according to the Oxford Languages. So that means Arceus was the first Pokemon ever, right? Well, let's take a look at some dex entries starting off with Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. According to the Legends of Sinnoh, this Pokemon emerged from an egg and shaped all there is in the world. Okay, well, that is a pretty powerful statement, but let's see what the entry for Arceus in Pokemon Pearl has to say. It is told in mythology that this Pokemon was born before the universe even existed. Okay then. Pokemon Platinum's dex entry is similar to Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but in Pokemon Diamond it says, it is described in mythology as a Pokemon that shaped the universe with its 1,000 arms. Okay, what? Upon taking a closer look at Arceus, it is the only Pokemon with a base stat total of 720 without requiring any items or special evolutions. And speaking of items, there is a specific item in the games called Plate, and there's 19 known plates with 18 of them representing each Pokemon type, and a bonus one called the Legend Plate. A really unique feature of Arceus is that if it holds one of these plates, its form and typing changes depending on which plate it is holding thanks to the ability called Multi-Type. And because Arceus has 18 different forms based off on the plates, that means it also has 18 shiny forms, bringing Arceus to a whopping total of 36 different forms. And it also has a special move called Judgment that has 100 attack power and changes the type of the move depending on what plate it's holding. However, when it's holding the Legend Plate from Pokemon Legends Arceus, it gains the ability to change its typing on the spot when using Judgment based on the selected opponent's type. Are you terrified of this Pokemon yet? Okay, so you have a Pokemon that supposedly hatched from an egg, raided the universe, and can change its type based on what item it's holding, a move that can literally smite you and has 1,000 arms? That is one impressive Pokemon, and I want to shiny hunt for it? Y'all, I don't think I ever wanted a shiny Pokemon this bad in my life before. So what's funny is that even though Arceus is number 493 in the National Dex, it actually doesn't appear in the Sinnoh Dex at all for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which were initially released in Japan back in September of 2006 and Pokemon Platinum in 2008. Arceus was not officially recognized by Nintendo until 2009 when it debuted in the 12th movie Arceus and the Jewel of Life. Ever since the first movie, there was always some sort of special distribution to celebrate the new movie release, whether it would be receiving a TCG promo card or receiving a Pokemon in the games via mystery gift. The Arceus movie was no different, but this was the first time that you could legitimately get Arceus on your copy of Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Thankfully, it wasn't just Japan that got this special event, but Europe and America did as well, with America's distribution being at Toys R Us locations. Now, I had no shame in asking my mom to drive me as a high schooler to Toys R Us with my DS Lite and my copy of Pokemon Platinum in hand, and the cool thing about the Arceus distribution event in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum specifically is that when you trade over Arceus to Heart Gold or Soul Silver, you unlock a special event where you can get a level 1 Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina. There are other Arceus distribution events such as the Global Link in Pokemon Black and White and random region-specific events, but something interesting happened in the middle of Generation 6's lifespan with Arceus. Now, up until March 7th of 2015, Arceus was shiny locked, meaning that you couldn't obtain the shiny form of Arceus at all. Just a quick note, you can shiny hunt for Arceus legitimately with the distribution event, but you may have issues when trying to transfer it to Pokemon Bank. As of today, there are currently 2 methods of getting shiny Arceus. The first being that shiny Arceus was a Japan exclusive distribution through serial code for Pokemon X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire to celebrate the movie
Pokemon the Movie XY, The Archgenie of the Rings, Hoopa.
Or better known in English, Pokemon the movie Hoopa and the Clash of Ages. Not only that, but you had to pre-order your movie ticket, so if you were not in Japan during that time, you were just straight out of luck of getting the shiny. The second method, which is a bit more accessible, is shiny hunting for it through soft resets in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shiny Pearl, and not through its own game, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed when I found that out, but because Shiny Arceus was technically available for everyone now after so many years of being shiny locked, I had a primal urge to get Shiny Arceus. When I completed my playthrough of Legends Arceus, I told myself that I will eventually go back to my Brilliant Diamond version to shiny hunt for Arceus. I actually ended up waiting until I was done with my playthrough of Pokemon Violet though before I took on any Brick Girl shiny hunt. Now, I couldn't just walk in all willy-nilly up to Arceus and politely ask it to be shiny. There's an actual process that you have to go through to even get access to this Pokemon. Not only do you need a copy of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond or Shiny Pearl, but you also need a copy of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Oh man, this shiny hunt is getting kind of expensive. But the reason why you need 2 games is because there's an item called the Azure Flute that you can get in Pokemon BDSP that only shows up if you have a completed save file of Pokemon Legends Arceus on your Switch. Yes, you need to completely beat both Legends Arceus and Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl. Thankfully, I had already beaten both games, so that really wasn't an issue for me. At this point, I can technically start my soft resets for Arceus, but I wanted to make sure that I can actually capture Arceus without any issues if the shiny were to appear. On the very top of Spirit Pillar and BDSP, Arceus is at level 80 when you encounter it, and its moveset is Healing Wish, Future Sight, Recover, and Hyper Beam. Thankfully, it doesn't have the move Judgment, which I mentioned earlier, but this moveset still poses a potential problem. The moveset equates to a total of 35 attacking turns for Arceus before it starts using the move Struggle, which is an attack that is used in Desperation only if the user has no PP, and it also damages the user, and it can land critical hits. The reason why I'm stressing the moveset is because since this Pokemon is so unique, I personally wanted to capture Shiny Arceus in a ball other than the Master Ball, preferably a Luxury Ball. I'm very picky when it comes to catching shiny Pokemon in certain Pokeballs, and Arceus was no different. I had a limited amount of time to chuck Luxury Balls at it before it starts using Struggle, and I also had to worry about being forced to use my one and only Master Ball. With that in mind, I needed a Pokemon at a high enough level that can tank up Future Sight, resist Hyper Beam, and for added security can learn the move Thunder Wave so Arceus can only attack me half of the time and increase my odds of catching it before it starts using Struggle, which, side note, Struggle can hit any Pokemon no matter the typing. Now, here's where it gets tricky and we haven't even started the hunt yet. For me to even allow Arceus to be registered to my Pokedex, I needed to have the National Dex unlocked, and I was missing quite a few Pokemon. I asked my fiance, Agent V, to help me out by doing some trades to get the National Dex unlocked since I didn't complete the post game of Brilliant Diamond yet. The next hurdle was trying to pick out which Pokemon would be the one to face off against God. I decided to go with Mismagius since it's a ghost type and normal type attacks like Hyper Beam can hit, it can tank 2 Future Sights before healing, and it could also learn Thunder Wave. I was feeling great about my plan so far until I realized that I didn't even have Mismagius in any of my Pokemon boxes. Thankfully, we have a thing called Pokemon Home, so I went back to my save file of Legends Arceus, took out my Alpha Mismagius, and transferred it over to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. Once Mismagius was in the save file, the only 2 things left to do was to buy Luxury Balls and to find the TM for Thunder Wave. Okay, so what I didn't know about Thunder Wave in BDSP is that you can't really buy it in any Pokemart or the department store. You had to redeem BP or battle points in the battle tower, and it cost 32 BP for Thunder Wave. 32! That meant you had to go through the battle tower and win at least 5 times, which means battling 35 trainers with one of them being the Tower Tycoon. Even the god of Pokemon themselves couldn't make me go through that. So I did what I do best. Complain on the internet. Thankfully, someone had a spare Thunder Wave to trade me, and oh my god, I felt so relieved that I can finally get started on the shiny hunt. Going into this, I was prepared knowing that this shiny hunt would be a commitment, especially since the shiny charm does not affect overworld or static encounters in BDSP. So we're looking at a 1 in 4,096 chance of encountering shiny Arceus. Those odds were terrifying, but not impossible. I expected that this hunt would take at least a few months to complete, but on day 2 of the hunt, 142 soft resets in. Yo, that was a banger. Oh my god, it's just shiny! No way! No way! Are you kidding me? What? It's just shiny! Oh my god! No! No way! Oh my god! need a call V. I need a call V. I need a call V. Oh my god, there's no way. Oh my god. I wasn't even looking at the screen when it appeared. I just saw that the screen was a little bit more yellow than usual in my peripheral, and I lost my marbles at what was in front of me. I was so freaking hyped that I called my fiance and told her that I actually got it. After so many years of it being locked away, I actually got it. It took me a few minutes to gather my bearings after the encounter, but I had to stick to the capture plan I crafted. I did not want to use my Master Ball, and instead capture it in a Luxury Ball. Yeah, that didn't happen. Paralyzed it, ran through all my Luxury Balls and all my other Pokeballs, struggled until the very last quarter of health, and I had to use my Master Ball. I count myself extremely lucky that I got Arceus in under such insane odds. 142 is crazy when it could have easily been over 4,000. There are some people whose hunts took over 5,000, 10,000, and there are people still shiny hunting for this thing. I'm very grateful that luck was on my side because once again, I thought that this hunt would take ages to complete. But now that I have my very own shiny Arceus, I can say that it's pretty dang cool in its 18 forms. The Ghost and Steel shiny forms are my favorite, and I love how it can bring it all the way up to my Pokemon Violet save file. From being revealed in 2009 to getting its own game 12 years later, Arceus is such a cool Pokemon. I never really put in this much effort into a shiny hunt before, but this one just felt really special. This was the first full odds hunt that I've ever done, and I don't know if I'll ever do one again on this scale. If you made it to the end of this video, please consider subscribing. It'll make my shiny Arceus very happy. For those of you that are still shiny hunting for Arceus or thinking about doing this hunt, I wish you all the best because you're gonna need it. Is there a shiny Pokemon that you got under odds? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you for watching.